Okay, thanks, Alice. Everyone in?
Yep, looks like a lot of people joining as they start to come through, so should be good to go now, Ryan.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning if you are in Queensland. This is me, Ryan, who you've seen on these before, and joining me is Mark Zerster, our Executive Director, who you would have seen on many of these sessions as well. And we have Alice and Cecilia from our marketing team helping out. So we're going to talk about the future of Project Online. We're going to go through we're going to unwrap that fortune cookie and show you what's coming. Now, as we go through, just a couple of housekeeping things. We're going to keep this as interactive as we can, but I can't see your hand if you raise it because I'm sharing my screen. Please raise your hand if you want to ask a question or put into the chat, and one of our people will monitor the chat and we'll pass the questions on. So as I said, it's Ryan and Mark again doing this. I would say from a Sensei perspective, we have been here forever. We've been doing this for 15 years. We've started with the germ or the seed of where Project Online came from, and now we're seeing it beyond that. So you're in good hands, hopefully, to take you through what's actually happening and what your options are going forward. We are going to talk about those options. We'll talk about those Microsoft and other options. We're going to talk about why it's not just a take one out, get a CD and install a new tool. It's not quite that, but there's a lot more opportunity as well. We're going to talk about what you can actually look forward to, because this is a technical thing, yes, but there's so much business opportunity. There's so much value here. That's the important part. And we're going to talk a bit about how you physically can get there. Now, we're going to start with some polls, as we generally do. So we're interested in who is actually using Project Online. So Alice is going to start the poll up, and it's really who's using it, who is actually actively using it and extending it, who's using it but hasn't really thought about the future yet, who of you are using it and love it and never want to get rid of it. I'm sorry, you're going to have to. Who is actually currently looking to replace it for technical reasons versus who's looking to replace it for better functionality. And that's really what we're going to be talking about, is some of that better functionality. Okay, I'm going to put a vote in so I can actually see. Okay, so they're coming through. A lot of people using it haven't thought about replacing it yet. Well, you've good news, you're in the right place. Some of you are busy extending it still. Yep, you can definitely still do this. We just need to be smart about how we do it. And then there are a few who are starting, about a quarter of you looking at replacing it for functionality reasons, business reasons, and only 8% looking to do it for just technical reasons. So that's actually really great. People are thinking in the right direction there. So let's talk about, let's talk about what we're going to talk about. So you've come to a session on Project Online, but is it actually about Project Online? Well, based on the fact that 25% of you, based on the current response, are looking at replacing Project Online for better business and functionality reasons, that's kind of what it's about. It's not just Project Online. It's about a change in the industry. It's about a focus or change in how we manage projects from being that sort of very waterfall, siloed and schedule-driven focus to more of an adaptive project management approach. It's about doing projects in the context of programs, portfolios, and strategy. It's about recognizing that there are a lot of people in the world. And this is very much a Microsoft and a Sensei drive, is that so many different levels of maturity, they're all doing work. We can't just force them into a schedule, the traditional old schedule. So we have to be inclusive. We have to bring them all into the fold, get them all into the reporting. And most importantly, it's about that digitalization of business process. And as we go through, Mark will talk more about that. But it's about breaking down those silos. It's about enabling the processes and supporting people in the way they need to work, as opposed to just mimicking the old-fashioned silos where you filled a piece of paper, put it into the cubicle next door's in-tray and dealt with it that way. So yes, it's about Project Online, but it's actually about so much more in the future. Okay, so there is though that reality check. Project Online, if anyone didn't know, shock, is a platform that's now facing retirement. So Microsoft has announced the retirement of this. So you do need to think about any work that you do in the future around it, and where is the best way to invest for that value going forward. So if we look at where this has come from, this is not just Ryan and Mark making up that we're replacing it. It's back in September 2018, they brought out the new project, which we know now as Project for the Web. End of 2019, so a year later, Microsoft announced that Project Online's end of life. This doesn't mean it's just turned off. You'll be using it today. It means that they are just not doing any new features in it. They're still making sure it runs. They're still making sure it performs. The security is still looked after. So it's not going to suddenly become a problem. October 2019, we get Project for the Web being rolled out. We are going to look at that. So you've sort of got two options, but it goes a bit beyond that. And now we're in 2022 now, we're in the future, and there is this evolution around the way we think about these things and the tools that are actually available to us. So now you can actually have a more user and process focused solution. So things
and Ryan, just a little disclaimer. So Microsoft has not officially announced the retirement of Project Online. What they have said is that Microsoft is committed to support them for another 5 years, which was in 2019 at the conference, and ensured that they said that security will of course be upheld, but no more innovation will flow into that. So the subsequent of that is it is only a matter of time until until this is until this is officially announced in regards to dates. I just want to make sure that you don't have to panic. It's not like this is going to go away.
Don't panic.
Tuesday. Perfect. There you go.
Those of you who have just hit maximum panic because Project Online is going away, wait until we talk about the next stuff. You're really going to have palpitations. But no, you don't have to panic. It still runs. It's just not being enhanced. And we're going to talk about ways the world expects enhancements that focus on more than just a schedule, that are really about that digitalization of your process and all the value from that. We're going to talk about how you can actually get that. So there is a bigger future ahead. But either way, you have years. As Mark said, they haven't announced it yet. Microsoft years are like dog years, essentially. They take a bit longer, okay? So now, part of Project Online, of course, is that next thing to panic about is MS Project. I'll be kind to you. It's okay. We are going to show you in the next slide how it's actually okay. But who's afraid if someone turned off Project Online, would you lose MS Project, or are you afraid of losing MS Project? So either you're like, no, you're holding on to it with your teeth. It's like, you can't take this away from me. I need MS Project, the scheduling tool. Others of you are like, yep, it's the standard. I recognize that, but let's see what you got. You got something better. Or you could be saying that, yeah, look, I know it's good, but we don't like it anyway. And so I don't mind if it goes. Or you could be saying, look, we either do or would rather use a mix of tools depending on what type of work we're doing and who's actually doing that work.
And what an interesting outcome on the results there, Ryan. It really is in line with with where the industry goes today. As you said.
I'm liking this audience because they're definitely thinking ahead in the right way here.
And not just thinking ahead. If you think about it, I mean, as you said, we've been doing this for 160 years, and we always try to increase the project management maturity level based on the schedule capability. The fact is, this is really not that required anymore. So it's a very interesting poll result.
Yeah, as you said, it's not that required. It's almost what causes the damage when you put all the effort into that and you don't focus on the real values around the business process. So what about MS Project? You don't have to panic. Those of you who are reaching for your security blanket right now because you're having an anxiety attack, it's okay. Microsoft has indicated that MS Project, the scheduling tool, will continue into the future. This is an industry standard tool. It is not going away. So let's be very clear about that. You're not losing MS Project. You do get options, so other things you can do as well. But there are some organizations and industries who have to use it. There's a reason for the power of that tool. And this is not going away. So MS Project, the scheduling tool, will still be there. We have now, as we've said, Project Online, obviously, and approaching that end of life at some point. And Project Online really is focused on those big enterprise the top end of town, the enterprise, strategic level projects, the more advanced things, where I need more than just a schedule. I need to be looking at everything around the project as well. But then what about all the other people? The people doing just the smaller, lightweight projects, lower maturity. Lower maturity is not a bad thing. It's the way you work and what type of work you do. So that is what Project for the Web is for. So this is the less hardcore formal project manager, not full-time schedulers. Project for the Web is there. We are going to talk about this in the relationship between Project Online and Project for the Web. And then you have Planner. And I'm sure many of, probably all of you have or are using Planner. It is really for those, the information worker who's doing the less formal, the task-based, so very much task-based, everyday type usage tool. So Microsoft has given us a selection across that continuum, that spectrum of different tools that can be used. But the technology and how you can extend these starts to change, where we move from Project Online to Project for the Web. They're not exactly equal. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And there is a lot more you can do once you start looking at Project for the Web and beyond. So when we start thinking about what's beyond, we've got to think about what Project Online actually is. And I'm setting up the scene here for how it's not exactly equivalent to Project for the Web. It's not meant to be. So Project Online gave you a schedule at its heart. So the schedule was very much the base. It was the majority of the effort, the training, the difficulty was around that schedule. But it did have an enterprise component. It had PWA, which provided you an interface plus your ability to actually manage the project as opposed to just the schedule and to do all your reporting, although that could sometimes be difficult to manage your process. So we're now not just a schedule tool. We also then had the collaboration aspect in SharePoint. So we could continue managing the project with your risks and your issues and all these things. Plus we could as a team come together, share documents and work together. So Project Online is an enterprise tool. When we come to Project for the Web, we've then got to think about, well, okay, do we pull Project Online out and put Project for the Web in? No, actually you don't. Project Online is, as I said, that enterprise, more of a complete project management, project portfolio management tool. Project for the Web is very focused on its own around the schedule. So what we're looking at here is it's kind of an apple and a grape, essentially. Okay, so you've got one that is giving you a more complete picture. You've got Project for the Web is essentially at its heart a simpler scheduling tool. Now, having said that, you do need to think about what you do with Project for the Web. So if you take MS Project and you add Project for the Web and you add the Power Platform, what you now have is closer to the equivalence, and this is how you can move forward. So if anyone is thinking, okay, Project Online's going away, that's fine. We've already got Project for the Web licenses, job done. Actually, no. What you've got is the piece that replaces or can be used as a replacement for MS Project. You don't have the entirety of Project Online at this point. You need to then think about everything else that makes it up, which is the other features. So this is why we add in the Power Platform, around specifically Power Apps, and we add in Teams, and that starts giving us the complete picture.
So Ryan, what kind of additional features does PWA then provide? I get that, MS Project as a schedule tool really only forms one part of project management, which is, allows us to predict the future. But what else does PWA in the Project Online space do? Because I think we really need to make sure that we understand MS Project versus Project Online.
Okay, MS Project, and we are going to come into this in a bit more detail as we go. So MS Project is straight up a scheduling tool. That's all it's doing.
Yeah.
When we move into PWAs, into Project Online, we're now able to look at the projects and their status overall. We're able to take them through a workflow and manage their status as they go through. We are able to look at their resourcing. So now we can start having an enterprise resource pool. We're able to start building up to a limited extent in Project Online, but now we can start adding in our programs or portfolios. And there was a strategic component in there as well. So you're able to get a fuller stack as opposed to just a task-centric, a task management level. So it's really the MS Project inside the team, how they're dealing their tasks. PWA and up, it's more the team, but it's also the team collaborating, but it's also those stakeholders above who need to actually see what's going on and make the bigger picture decisions. That's the piece there. So when we move over to project for the web, we need to be careful that we don't think one equals the other, because project for the web is focusing on, it's schedule centric still. And you need to then add in all the rest if you want to get the rest. So that's why the equation is basically project for the web plus the Power Platform plus Teams gives us the more complete picture. Which does bring us to the question around, will project for the web ever actually reach feature parity with project online? And the answer is, it's not supposed to. It may not, it may go beyond, but it's not actually supposed to, because Microsoft is thinking about this differently. They're saying project for the web is aimed at those people who are needing to manage tasks, but at the moment they're smaller. It's less formal work going on. You can still do bigger projects as well, but they're reimagining the way what work actually is in this context. It's not only traditional scheduling. Okay, so instead of building it feature by feature, they're essentially creating a new world. That new world consists of project for the web, plus your Power Apps, plus Teams going forward. Okay, and this is why we're not talking about Sensei stuff at all during this, but this is why partners such as us exist, is because we bring all those together and build that complete solution for you. Okay, so now what I've been saying is you remove project online. Can you have something better? Well, if project for the web is not equivalent to project online, but you need to add in the Power Apps and you need to add in the Teams plus project for the web or others, can you get something actually better? Well, yes, you can. So if you start off with the Power Platform, we have a Power Platform, gives us our reporting in Power BI. It gives us an ability to manage our processes. It does actually give us a way to integrate tools. We still have a way, remember it's MS Project plus Project for the Web. We can still bring in MS Project. We can use Project for the Web. We can then also bring in Planner. We also have the ability then to start using other tools such as DevOps, Jira, etc. So again, using the Power Platform, we can start integrating to these tools. So what we've now got is a future world that is bigger than just Project Online was. So we are getting tasks. We can we can get all the tasks in any form. We can have a choice around that. Do you want MS Project? Sure. Mark wants to use Project for the Web. Alice wants to use Planner, and Cecilia on our side is using Jira for something. Okay.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because there are a couple of comments here. One, Jack, thank you for the question. Oh well, hey, if we don't have MS Project, we would have to go to something like Primavera. And really, I think that's the whole idea: utilizing the execution tool that is required in order to do your job. So it's really important that on one hand we understand MS Project now is it's not going away. On the contrary, it is now providing us a richer capability, allowing us really to cover all levels of project management maturity. I think that's super important to understand.
Yeah.
And there's another question here, Ryan, that is quite interesting. It looks like Microsoft is moving away from an enterprise solution to focus on a larger user base, non-enterprise users. Well, actually, I would say, Craig, that's on the contrary. I would actually say that the recognition that technology has moved away from, I'm going to call it on-prem, purpose-built, project online environment into a digitalization capability that Microsoft offers with that no-code, low-code capability. So you will actually see that the ability for you to really 100% digitalize your business process on top of the Microsoft platform is allowing every organization to invite every level of project management maturity, and that's super, super important. We've been doing this for such a long time, Ryan. You know how difficult it was keeping project managers always abreast, right? Keeping them, they felt that this was an administrative overhead because it was so heavy duty. With the ability to now actually digitalize that in the Power Platform, that makes all the difference. So we are definitely. Yeah, definitely
so-
attracting enterprise customers here.
Yeah, so I think it was Craig asked the question. So
Yeah.
it feels like they've moved away from a big solution to lots of users doing small things. But as Mark said, actually that's not what's happened. There's two things that have happened. One is a recognition that most people were not using that big solution effectively anyway. And we weren't getting the traction and the value that was needed. It was hard work all the time. The second is that because it was such a big solution, it was for the elite few in the corner, those PMO guys in the corner only, but 80% of the organization had nothing. So they're actually doing both. They're giving us the ability to create something that Project Online, remember we had to build the stuff into Project Online. Those of you who have got Project Online need to think back 10 years of how much you had to invest to get the functionality you've got now. Out the box, it did very little. So what they've given us now is a set of tools to create or to assemble an enterprise solution in a way that could not exist in Project Online. And they've given us the ability to include all the rest of the users. So all the rest of the organization.
Yeah, and I think there's one preconception here that says, that one of the comments from Eshan, thank you Eshan, saying, but licensing costs are quite steep. Well, if you consider the power of the Power Platform in its own right, it's not just for project portfolio management. What you ultimately do is you have the ability to digitalize any kind of business process. We just coincidentally right now talk about the concept of Project Online as a business process, moving that into the Power family. But once you have those licenses, you can actually maximize them, introducing any kind of business process that you need to digitalize into the Power Platform. And that's really what the evolution of cloud technology enables us to do these days. Utilizing I'm going to call it a platform with the Power apps, and therefore having the ability to digitalize that in no matter what area that is. So not just project management, this could be HR, this could be finance, this could be any area where you have a business process that needs to be digitalized, making actually the total cost of the licensing lesser than.
Yeah, Mark, you're exactly right. So a lot of our clients, we have built contract management in. It sits right next to project management, but now we can just add it on, no extra license needed. We have built in long-term financial planning. So right from the building up the business case, doing all these things, it's that digitalization of the process. Again, don't need another tool. Risk assessment tools, all these things that you could buy separately. There's no license, you don't have to. The other thing I will point out is that if you actually look at your Project Online license, your P3 license, and compare it to what you need going forward, Project Online, you've probably already got a Power Apps license, and you've probably got a Power BI license as well. Going forward, depending, you could use Project for the Web, for example. You can actually reduce a license. So a lot of our clients, the license cost is coming down, their functionality is going up. So this is definitely worth thinking about from that perspective.
Right. Sorry, just a bit conscious of time.
Yeah.
There are lots of questions. Obviously, this is a very important part. If we can just go a little bit further while we do that, I'll answer a couple of those questions that form beautifully in here. After the investment in Project Online, how do we migrate? Ryan will cover that actually a little bit later. Yeah, and can we say Microsoft is making more focus on agile methodology, which I thought, given that the industry has just so much changed in the last, the last couple of years, from waterfall into agile, from covering all project management maturity levels, how would we deal with agile in that sense?
So in this sense, again, you have a choice of tools. So what we have now available to us is a choice of task management or execution tools. And we can look at the pros and cons as we've got on here. So in the Microsoft sense, DevOps for Agile, of course, we can bring the non-Microsoft and we can bring Jira in as well. And we come back up here, where by using the Power Platform, we're actually able to create a consistent project portfolio and above layer, but down into the projects themselves, into what the team themselves are doing, they can get a choice. So now you can actually do Agile. So Mark's doing Agile. Hey, I'm old. I'm doing waterfall because, Prince 2 will live forever. And you know what? The PMO doesn't care because they're seeing a report that shows both of these things equally. We can do this.
Yeah, and there's actually exactly a question here right now from Peter that says, hey, it would be great to get views on, on how program management fits into that bigger picture. Well, bringing that in the context, as a program manager, you will have many sub-projects, and there may be some IT projects, there may be some, I don't know, construction projects, so some waterfall and some agile projects. The ability, allowing users to utilize the tool that makes their job easy, and then consolidating that on a program level actually becomes very easy. In Project Online, which is an awesome tool for professional project managers, you are focusing your schedule capability on MS Project, but with the Power Platform combined now, you literally have the ability to determine what kind of process and what kind of tool you want to integrate. With all of that being said, tools is one thing. I think that the combination of automation is super important. Ryan, over to you.
So imagine a program. Imagine a process that starts off with coming up with ideas, defining out business processes, then grouping them up into programs, and then selecting of the 10 projects, 2 are agile, 2 are little things there. They can use Planner. The rest, the one big one, we're building a bridge. It's going to use MS Project because of contractual reasons, and the other can use whatever. This we can actually focus on. So the tools now don't force you in one direction. It's about industry change. It's about enable the process. It's about support the people. We call it 100% user adoption because they're not in there. They weren't all in. I promise you, they were not all in Project Online anyway. So
and just
freak out about Project Online.
Yeah, just a little side note, Ryan. Jacqueline, yes, you're absolutely right. Please don't. Waterfall is very much, or traditional is very much required. I wouldn't want to build a house in an agile environment, of course. So the combination of both, that's really key here.
Let me be very clear here in that Microsoft is not going down a agile only path. Project for the Web is not an agile tool. It has a little bit in that you have a Kanban board. So it can be an agile tool, but flip the view, and I'll show you this in a second, and now I've got a normal Gantt chart and a schedule again. So that's not an agile tool. I can plan sprints, or I cannot plan sprints, so I can do both. So the traditional way of doing things is not going away at all, especially when we start thinking about from a project perspective, what else is there? What is agile, little agile tool does not give us? Well, we're talking about all this, enable the process and use more, add power apps and all these things in. We need to think about not what we've been talking about now, it's tasks. The thinking is still down in the depths of MS Project. Yes, that stays there. But like you said, we've got to think about the programs on the portfolios. We've got to think about the rest of the project management. We've got to think about strategic planning. It doesn't care if it's agile or not. We've got to think about that business case process. It doesn't care if it's agile or not. We've got to think about how teams collaborate. This is a modern way. It's not really about agile. So anyone who's thinking that, oh no, I'm going to be excluded from the Microsoft journey because it's agile, no. You are now going to be able to get equal choice where in the past you didn't have that. Okay, so for those of you who are using different tools, but interested in what you're actually using over here. So some of you, I suspect, will only be using Project Online because this is what you've got. Some of you will be using Project Online with something else like Planner on the side. And some of you may be using it with an agile tool on the side. Some may have moved to Project for the Web already, just for reasons. And some of you may be doing something entirely different. So let's see what's out there. So questions coming from Craig. Okay, so there's an evenly split between Project Online with a non-Microsoft tool and Project Online with an agile, with like an agile tool, which again shows me that there's definitely a mix of the traditional, the non-traditional, and the need is there to have different ways of working, not force everyone down the same maturity path. Okay, so how do we actually get to that? And 15% are only using Project for the Web. That is actually quite interesting. Lot you can do with Project for the Web. Okay, so the reason I asked that question was to see how people were thinking about tools, but then open the thinking up to think about more than just tools. Is the tool important? What I'm saying is the tool's not important. It's the platform that's important. We go, Mark and I, our job effectively is to go to clients, and if you boil it down, this company is selling solutions to clients. So what the clients will often do is say, okay, the feature in your tool, they pick up the bottle and they look at the ingredients and like, okay, you've got program management. The other one, no, they don't have program management. Okay, we'll give you a point. And they go through it like that. That's not necessarily the best way to do it, because you need to look at, can the platform actually enable your process? Can it be done in a low code or no code way that is actually flexible into the future? And is it done with an open common technology such as the Microsoft Power Platform? This means you have that future security. You don't have a project online expiring type of situation in the future, versus, is it just the ingredients you see today? Is it something like, I can see the feature, I'm going to buy that feature, and oh, by the way, because it's one tool, you must all use that tool. So we're saying it's the platform that's important. Microsoft's given us a selection of tools and a platform around it, or that underpins it. That is far more valuable than just subscribing to a locked service that can never actually be changed or not easily be changed. So what does that mean? This is the only Sensei related slide in this whole deck. This is actually not about us. This is bigger, so I'm going to go through it quickly. Some of you already have SensorIQ, the Sensei tool. This is a Power Platform based tool. It covers the entire, so you can have a tool that covers from the enterprise level down to the information worker, from traditional across to agile, and adds the layers that were never there: strategy, benefits, portfolios, programs, all of these things that were never actually there in Project Online or had to be built from the ground up. And the reason I point this out is because we use the Power Platform to do it. We can actually do this. So you going forward, this can be done. So do you then say, that's all very well and fine. Thank you, Ryan. I'm going to build it myself. Go for it. If you get it right, give me a call. I've got a job for you, okay? But things you need to think about is all the bits that are not in Project for the Web. So remember, Project for the Web is giving us a scheduling component. We've got to then use the rest of the Power Platform. We've got to build up the process, the forms, all the finance, all the resourcing was partly there, all the integration.
Hey, Ryan.
We added in, yeah.
You know what? Because you're talking about that, just to see a couple of comments here.
Yeah.
It's very funny. Thanks, Craig, for your comment. It looks like we are no longer PMOs. It feels like we need to be system integrators, analysts, in order to deliver and maintain that. And I think this is a prime example of, it is often difficult to explain the power of the Power Platform in the Microsoft stack, because it really still is that thinking of the past where every application is a purpose-built application, instead of actually allowing you to add features and capabilities in the Power Platform, just like you created that slide deck here. It's not so much the building of it, Craig, and it's an outstandingly good question, by the way. Is it true that you need to be a system integrator? Well, actually not in the world today. These days, these are all software as a services. All you need to do is subscribe to them. So you can either build them yourself with the no-code, low-code capability, and believe me, there are lots of large organizations that have IT and businesses that are actively using the Power Apps to exactly do that, digitalizing it, and they do build that themselves, by the way. But when you look at the bigger picture that Ryan outlines here, the question is not so much building. The question is, well, once I've built this, how am I supporting that? How am I going to continuously add feature sets? What am I going to do when the guy who built it leaves the company? Who's going to support it then? That is actually the challenge. Building them these days is actually, through the no-code, low-code capability, reasonably simple, reasonably, I'd say, but really the maintenance of it is key. Yeah.
And Craig, there's one more. The whole thing here is about, okay, so Craig, you've put your head above the parapet, so forgive me here. What you need to be is, yes, you need to be the PMO, but you need to change the PMO. And your PMO needs to no longer worry about the minute detail of controlling some guy's schedule and creating Excel reports. What you need to be thinking about is, how can we help this organization achieve their strategic goals, knowing that I can actually get tools to help me do that. In the past, the reason I was in a schedule in Excel because there was nothing else. Now, you know what, team, go sort yourself out in the corner. I've given you a choice of tools. I know the reports come through. Oh, I need a new report. There's a, as Marcus said, a low code, no code tool to create a new report. So you just assume I can get that report. You now need to come up a level. Ryan's been telling us to focus on strategy. Okay, let's go see how we can start modeling strategy out. How can we track our objectives and things? I need a tool to do that. Do I go and buy one? Or no, hang on, I've got a Lego kit here. And based on what these guys are saying, it is actually very easy to start assembling it. Do I need to do it myself? No, I'm the PMO. I need to know I can imagine it and someone else will build it. So I can go to Sensei and say, oh, look, you've got something like that. Thank you very much. Or if our IT guys are up to it, I go to them and they can actually build it. So this is giving you the opportunity to come up a level and not worry about those. Craig, I can't remember if what you guys were with Project Online, but how many times, people on this call, how many hours in a week have you spent going and looking for publish errors and clearing queues and doing all that crap in Project Online?
Oh my God.
You go talk to your boss about what's important in the organization now. That's where you spend your time.
How interesting. There's a whole swag of comments in the meeting talking exactly about that, where people say, yeah, but what am I going to do if I don't publish it anymore? Well, you don't have to. This is the beauty about it all, right? And then there's a question, yeah, but Project Online allows me to put that into an MPP file, and Project for the Web allows me just to access it through Dataverse. What happens if I want to just have a file, and an offline file, and want to send that to somebody? Well, it is a very, very good question. So these days, everybody is online and collaboration is in the forefront. The times of saving a file and sending that, and then someone else amends it and sends it back, they are just simply gone. The ability really is to consume the capability, not to be burdened with all of the, well, I'm going to call it administration of saving that as a file and sending that and then bringing it back and amalgamating that. That really outlines where technology and cloud technology really moves, because when you think about a Project Online in particular was Project Server, and that was actually the reasons why they had to put the publish capability on there so that you could take it offline with. But these days, you know, everybody is online everywhere. It's not very often that people are offline these days.
Just having said that, remember, MS Project is still there. You remember, you use MS Project plus Project for the Web plus the Power Platform, or you look at MS Project and or Project for the Web and or anything else you want, plus the Sensei solution around the Power Platform to give you all of that. So yes, you can. If you need to email your file, there are ways to still do that. So yeah. I'm just going to show you some stuff here quickly.
Yeah, while you do that, I'm just going to outline a couple of other things here. I'm sure you need to refresh that. Can we migrate MS Project schedules into Project for the Web and vice versa with all functionalities? Great question. I mean, no is the answer. Yes, you can import an MS Project file, MS Project schedule into Project for the Web, but there will not be there will no feature parity be. And the reason, that's the whole idea, that MS Project, for the very sophisticated scheduler that knows and value and baseline and all of those things in comparison to a business user that needs to execute a project, doesn't want to be overburdened with too much features, and that's where Project for the Web hits in. So both of these tools absolutely have a purpose, and that's really what you know.
And you can use them together. And having said that,
have to, yeah, show them that.
So just having said this feature parity thing, I sit with many schedulers going through that, and most organizations are using 10% of what they need to in MS Project. They're actually not using anything more than Project for the Web gives them most of the time. Okay, so just watching time, just going to show you a few things.
Yeah,
this here is Project for the Web. So looks like Agile. Doesn't look like Agile. Okay, doesn't look like Agile. So you can kind of do both. So, and the whole point is it's used inside teams. always think Teams as part of your solution here, as a not standalone tool. That's why we're saying you don't just think about Project for the Web. It's like, forget about it. If you want Project for the Web on its own, that means you're just looking for a schedule tool. If you're looking for an enterprise project management tool, you think about the Power Platform. You think about Teams. Now we start adding in the Power Platform, and now we can start saying, well, I've got my schedule in Project for the Web, for example. But look, I want some forms. I want some process. This is a program, actually. So I want to program, I want to go into a project. Oh, look, I want Teams. I can collaborate within here. I can run my reports. I can do all of this. Those of you who are using Project Online now, I challenge you to find me a project online that is as fast as this. Will not load the page as fast as this. I didn't have to check it out. I don't need to publish it. All that publishing stuff was it's actually, we sold it to you as a business reason. It was a technical reason. I'm sorry. Okay. You can't do things. You go to your PDP. You can't make a nice workflow. You can't add all this stuff in over here because you have a
business reason too, by the way, but that was in the 90s.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm making a point. The world works very well not publishing, I promise you. So you can't have the richness of the user interface in this way using good old SharePoint technology without heavy customization. You give me a couple $100,000, I will build this for you in SharePoint. It's not worth it. I give this entire page here a few days, and one of our developers, Mark, will build it.
Yeah, look, and there is a wonderful comment here from Simon. Thanks, Simon. Apologies, guys, but this feels like a sales pitch for Sensei Microsoft. The ability to sell more licenses, more people, but what problem does the market actually is asking that Project for the Web solves? Look, great question, Simon. This is really not a sales spiel. And I want to make this clear. This is how the industry, the project portfolio management industry in the cloud moves in today's world. And maybe we're not conveying that message well enough. But the idea here is not to sell more licenses, and the idea here is not to ensure that this is a sales pitch. This is outlining and really educating the power of the Power Platform, and this is really, really key. We want to make sure that you see that next path from Project Online being a purpose-built project portfolio management tool into Microsoft Power Apps being a purpose-built business process digitalization move. You will actually see, and we've done the analysis. You will see that it is actually, from a licensing perspective, much more reasonable than Project Online, because you have to buy that license and you can use it for all areas, not just for that one. And I really want to make this clear.
So the business problem, you asked what the business problem is. The business problem is simple. There are no tools out of the box like Project Online that can actually digitalize my process, that can link my project management into the upstream and downstream processes, that can effectively go up and support program and portfolio managers and strategy. That's just not there. So there's a business problem. The problem is that these are standalone tools and they don't all talk to each other. We need a platform that you can have the finance people building a tool. We're using the same technology. It's now effectively automatically integrated. Business problem is that PMOs get rolled every 2 to 3 years. Okay, so most of you on the call know exactly what I mean. If you've just started a PMO, talk to me in 3 years. You're going to get restructured. Why? Because the tools and processes are too hard. You're not supporting the people who need to do their job and how they need to do it. We need tools that allow us to actually support these people. Organizations are not focusing on their strategic goals well enough. And Gartner's come out with a lot of research on this we went through recently. And unless we can start building tools that allow you to have a strategic focus, you lose out to your competitors. So there's your problem. How do we do it? As Mark said, the Power Platform is a way that you can actually enable all of this.
And it's actually the transition to that. And I've got here quite a few comments, Ryan, if we can actually move that a little bit unconscious of time. Yep, that's okay. But what does that actually mean? How do we migrate that? How do we move it from one into another environment?
Okay, so migration is not just push button, I'm afraid. Microsoft is, so we've got to talk about different tools you move to. So off Project for the Web, so off MS Project, you move forward. You can look at starting from scratch. I'm going to go through this quickly because I think we should come to these questions. So you can look at starting from scratch, building up from the start again, but that's hard for a lot of people. A lot are doing a hybrid, so they still use Project Online and they use MS Project actually, and we link it into the new world. Okay, so now you get the old and you get all the new, maybe the agile projects, etc. This means some data is migrated, so some stuff we can migrate. Other things we don't need to because MS Project is still there, and yet others get manually moved over, versus a full migration across in terms of in-place transition. Somewhat harder to actually do because the schedules, if you stay within MS Project, not a problem. If you move from MS Project to something else, which you don't have to do, but it is an opportunity, that then becomes a challenge. The rest tends to be okay. So
yeah, and I think it's also mentioning, we're doing this actually right now in many ways with organizations, and this parallel transition is actually the one that has proven most successful, because on one hand you can still, there's no risk of using, of course, your current PPM environment, and then by applying new projects into that new environment, we have the ability to bring this all together, therefore reducing or finishing off projects in Project Online and starting new projects in the Power Platform. So what we've also discovered is that every organization is a little bit different, and there are different reasons why you would want to move. Now, right now, if you are comfortable with Project Online, by all means, stay there, and that's what we strongly recommend. If you want to introduce new departments or even new feature sets, then there may be a justification of putting that investment into the new capability of the Power Platform, and then over time transitioning it. I think that's super important to understand. And another comment that was made here from Craig says, yeah, the strength of project is the scheduling engine. A lot of organizations operate with an ERP system that manages corporate workflows and business processes. Well, that may be the case, Craig, and then that's perfectly fine. If these business processes that you currently operate in Project Online can be replaced by an ERP system, by all means do that. It's actually ultimately the same path. If an organization requires strong schedule capability, then use MS Project and stay that way. If an organization requires the management of multiple different project management maturity levels, and actually that's what we see as well. Most organizations, actually, I would say 99% of the organizations that we deal with have not just project management maturity level 5. Actually, they have a whole multitude of them. Organizations that have full-time schedulers, sure, I get that. Utilities, constructions, all of these very heavy-duty scheduled organizations still require that. We now, in the Power Platform, say, well, we don't force you to use just one tool. We have organizations that use for their heavy-duty construction projects Primavera, that use for their internal projects MS Projects, and for their IT projects Jira. So the ability to consolidate that information is actually key. Trying to keep someone on one tool only because it is the technical path, that's not the right approach. What the idea really here is moving from a purpose-built Project Online environment that only had the ability to support certain levels of project management maturity into understanding that an organization, no matter what the purpose is, it's not always and only project management purposes, and therefore having the ability to support every level, so that lightweight projects, and I'll just give an example of marketing. I'm sorry, I know marketing can also be a very heavy one. Have planner and let them do the Kanbaning. Where lightweight project, where I don't need to worry about earned values or leveling of resource information, let them use Project for the Web, because then suddenly they don't perceive that as an administrative overhead. And by all means, for the heavy duty ones, by all means, use Primavera if this is the appropriate tool. Use Project if that's the appropriate tool. the execution and the layer of governance above all of these projects, though, they still live in the Power Apps platform. And as you saw earlier with a very quick glimpse of the user experience, that's how you digitalize business processes these days. Again, I'm conscious that we have 10 minutes, right?
We have 10 minutes. We've actually reached the end.
Maybe we should open up some questions. Exactly. Yeah. Please, be controversial. Let us hear what questions you may have.
Look, I do recognize that this is a journey for a lot of people, including an emotional journey. So let's hear it. What was for us too?
It was for us too. We were, we 10 years ago, it was very common where we tried to lift the project management maturity level of every organization to a particular level. It was always hard. These days we say, you know what, no matter what maturity level, we ensure that we automate the business processes, digitalize that business process so deeply into the digital user experience that you cannot do anything else but follow that particular process intuitively.
Hey, Mark, got a question here from Robert.
Yeah.
So Robert's saying in relation to project reporting, Power BI doesn't appear to allow the rich reporting in its dashboards to be extracted from a record keeping point of view. It's good and dynamic. Basically, what he's saying is, how do we capture that data, say for each end of month historical audit health check, doing comparison to a previous point?
Yeah, sure. So Power BI is a reporting tool that only does one thing. It actually is just very rich on data capability. I cannot think of a reporting tool that does that actually in a grander way these days. However, the question is more about how do we ensure that data I reported last month can still be called up, right? That's what I'm hearing. Well, and of course, there are different ways how you can do that. Transactional data do not change, so therefore you have the ability to go back into history. If it's not transactional data, you snapshot the data at a given point in time, like when you create a project status update, you formalize that, of course, with comments and data. You then snapshot that and have the ability to track that back. I mean, we've been using Power BI in Project Online, by the way, as well as in now in the Power Platform, because it forms part of that puzzle piece. I refer to Power BI as the new Excel because of its richness, actually. But you're right, data is important. And where is the data stored and how do you actually deal with those data sets?
And essentially, short answer is we have snapshotting technology to deal with that, to give you exactly. Same as Project Online.
Exactly.
Another question here from John. So does an MS project file now get resourced from Project for the Web? It can share resources across multiple project files as the enterprise pool did. And Craig had a similar question.
So let's talk a little bit about resource management, right, in that context. So there are different ways how you can deal with that. Now, we are looking at it not just from MS Project or Project for the Web, but for Jira, for Primavera, for all of these different execution tools. So there are ways, and you will find that Project for the Web, for example, now has the ability to have a resource plan where you can request resources, book resources, and have all of those things. So what we do, for example, is we have now a resource management capability that lives above all of these projects, where a project manager can actually request resources based on a plan, no matter what kind of schedule and execution tool they use. And that has been very successful. What it means is that that you can actually utilize different execution tools, but still have your resources. But to answer your question, no, there is no interaction between MS Project resource pool and Project for the Web resource pool. They are separate, and you can manage all of that actually now in the Power Platform. If you're interested in it, please contact us. I'm happy to show you that.
So Marcus said, so just elaborating what he said there, no, in isolation as such, those two do not interact, but we now have a new resource pool that covers across all of these.
What are the contact details to follow up the Power BI snapshot? Oh yeah, Robert will make sure that
others will reach out to you.
Yeah, we'll reach out to you.
Okay, just looking, I'm just scrolling up. I think we've covered the questions. Any other, we've got 5 minutes.
Please open up your microphones,
Yeah, Robert, just coming back to you around MPP files, the physical files from Project for the Web. Microsoft is working on a import capability. Not so sure about export, but the thing is, you don't have to use Project for the Web. You can still use MS Project.
Yes, it does that now. You can actually import MS Project into Project for the Web today. That's no problem. You lose some of the capabilities. Bringing it back.
But again, don't use it. In your case, use MS Project. We can link. You get all this cool stuff
Steve.
plus MS Project.
Sorry, we've got a hand up from Steve. Steve, please.
Hi, Mark. I'm not sure if this is going to come out as a question or a comment, but firstly, thank you. This has been one of the most robust conversations that I've ever seen at one of these webinars.
Love it.
And I think this could actually go on for hours. I think probably the most important thing is that we've all been sort of like comparing notes. And we've obviously all got different scenarios. The one thread that I'm sort of like interested in that I was seeing in the background was this stuff around licensing. And the reason I'm raising this is because taking our organisation, and for the others on the line here, I'm with the Bureau of Meteorology, we're not, I don't think it's speaking out of turn, but we're not committed to Microsoft. As a government organisation, it's difficult to do that sort of thing. Yeah. What we are committed is to, or what we do have is quite a lot of disparate systems. And in the context of what we're looking at now, for us, that's our project systems. But equally, we've got finance systems, we've got, workforce management, and we've got what I call sources of truth living all over the organisation. What I'm finding is the real tricky part is I would love to commit to, Microsoft Power Automate and all that sort of thing. What it tends to happen, Ryan made a comment about how you can build a business case around how you can use the licensing everywhere else. Yeah. That's actually the nature of our problem, because what we find is that we're starting to consume Power BI licenses and so on with just what we do now. And then as our information from the EPMO spreads out through the organisation, we find more and more people want to bolt on. So what we actually end up with is like this piecemeal addition to licensing, and that's where I think I don't know if it's factual or not, but that's where it really appears to start to look expensive when the organisation hasn't committed to going down that track. So as I said, don't know if that's a comment or a question.
No, look, I'll take that as a comment, but also just elaborate a little bit more around it. Power BI is a prime example that you've outlined. In your business, you have Power BI for your, I'm going to call it PMO and project management. That's great. Now, suddenly other people say, hey, but I want to use that Power BI as well. And I want to may use that for finance or for HR or for any other data consumption. Well, the purpose of Power BI means that if you provide that license now to, let's say, the team that does finance, they can, of course, now utilize that to do every data set. So you don't have to buy a purpose-built dashboard tool for finance or for project management. You have that overarching one. And that's the same with the Power family. Look, and it's very common that an organization doesn't commit to just one brand, which is Microsoft in our world. I think in the 21st century, it's very important that we know how easy it is to actually integrate different line of business systems together. And that's super key. So I would recommend that, use the tool. It's not about, it's about the tool that does the job best for you. And I think that's key. Now, of course, from an IT perspective, it does make sense to go down a particular strategic path. But what I can tell you is from a licensing point of view, you pay the license once, and then you don't have to pay the license for other things that you may use it for, whereby if you buy a new software, you would have to buy yet again another license. And if you then buy another purpose-built software, you have to pay another license. If you look at that from a bigger picture perspective, it does make sense to have one license that rules them all. I'm going to call that from a business process perspective.
Yeah, I think it's that step where you realize you need enterprise licensing, but you haven't necessarily built up the business case for it.
That's a very good comment, and there are different ways of how you can do those. And yes, enterprise licenses is of course the easiest way. And look, we are in the same boat, right? I mean, it's not like we get any money from Microsoft selling their licenses, you know, I wish, you know, we're literally in the same boat, and we try to optimize that as much as we can. And therefore we always say, hey, if you have Power BI, most organizations have that these days, you just don't have to worry about it anymore. We can give you IQ and you don't have to pay any additional licenses. And that's really the idea behind it. But I can see, and I'm conscious, yes, it's 1:30. Thank you. So look, it almost warrants another robust discussion in that space. Yeah. Maybe it does make sense from our point of view, Ryan, to think about it. Please give us feedback if you would like to continue that story, and also questions that you may have. Maybe we actually accelerate another session for that one, Ryan, because it is obviously very, very much in the front of people's mind.
Yeah, and I think maybe just straight up discussion, you know, now that everyone knows what it's about.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much, team. You shall hear from us. We'll send you the collateral through. Please fill in the online form and questions, and we will make sure that we may have a part 2 for that one. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.